Welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with me, Anne Walsh. Today I'll be talking to Hayley King. Hayley King is a mother, she's a daughter, and many other things. But most importantly, and what's really fascinated me is her foundation, which she set up here in the UK, called Sienna Smiles. Sienna Smiles is an advocacy platform that she uses to spread the awareness for people suffering from sickle cell disorder. Hayley King has a daughter, Sienna, who has sickle cell. Today they'll be sharing their journey and their story of the challenges they've had and ways they've overcome them. Meet them both. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me on Painless Universal Conversation. Sienna, you're amazing, you're a star. I've followed your journey because you remind me of myself when I was much younger and how you've become that. But we'll start the conversation with your mum. Before we start that, I wanted both of you, especially Hayley, you are amazing. You started this platform because I didn't really say much about you because I don't want it coming from me. This is the way I do this show. I want it to be an amazing show where people just get to hear it from you. Who are you? And tell us a little bit about both of you.
Okay, so my name's Hayley.
Yeah.
I'm the founder of the Sienna Smile charity. Obviously, my daughter Sienna, who is now 12, was born with sickle cell anemia. And for the first kind of 4.5 years of Sienna's life, we didn't really ever come to any complications with sickle cell. She never really experienced anything to do with it. And then when she got to 4.5, she had her first sickle cell crisis. And I just felt like there was a real lack of communication with healthcare professionals. There was a lack of understanding, lack of empathy. And I took Sienna to the hospital and they just kept saying, oh, nothing wrong with her, just take her home, it's fine. She's probably just being a little bit dramatic. And that hurt. It hurt so much as a mother, knowing that your child has an illness that can cause severe pain. And so I kind of had a little discussion with the doctor and they just said, no, just take her home. And so we brought her home. She managed to settle her down. Within an hour, she was screaming in pain again. And I just thought, right, I'm going to take her back to the hospital. And I got there and I said, I'm not leaving here until you do some kind of investigations, because this is not normal for my child to behave like this. There has to be something causing this discomfort to her. And they did some tests and Sienna had pneumonia, quite a severe case of pneumonia. She was having a sickle cell crisis and her hemoglobin levels were really low. And just over and over again in my head, I just kept thinking, if I didn't take her back to the hospital, what would have happened? And then it led on to, well, if we're experiencing this, how many other people are experiencing this? And I just kept thinking, I just felt so alone and so isolated by it, because I can speak to the doctors and they can give you the medical jargon, but they don't know emotionally how it affects the family. And so I just thought, right, I'm going to do something about this. And about 6 months after that, I set up the charity. And it was just mainly to just give support to others, to allow people not to feel how I was feeling, and just be there and be able to compare and be able to just not feel so alone. And so I started the charity. I'm also a silversmith as well, so I do that in my, not so much spare time. I don't think that exists when you're a parent. And Sienna, do you want to talk about yourself a little bit, things that you like?
I was going to jump into Sienna, but Hayley, I really wanted to really touch on this because I think I've been getting a lot of calls, and the reason I thought of you because you are a mother. And how did you know? Did you know about first of all, did you know about sickle cell before you had Sienna? That's one.
Yes.
Okay.
I was tested when I was about 13, I think.
Okay.
And I found out that I had sickle cell trait, and my mum had a really long talk with us and said, you know, that you need to be really careful if you meet somebody. There's a 1 in 4 chance, if you're both carriers, that the child could end up with sickle cell anemia. And so I was completely aware of it. And I think one of the first questions I asked Sienna's father when we first started dating was he a sickle cell carrier? And he said, oh, I never heard of this. You know, he rang his mum. His mum was like, no, definitely haven't got it. And it was just put on the back burner. Never thought about it again, thought we were fine. And then when I was pregnant with Sienna, because I knew I definitely had sickle cell trait, my midwife said, well, we can't find any records, so we're just going to send him to get a blood test, Sienna's dad, just so we know for definite. And I was like, well, it's fine, he already knows, kind of thing. And she sent him for a blood test, and she called me and she said, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but Elliot has sickle cell trait as well. And I just thought, what? You know, we went through all of this. Surely it's not correct. And I just remember thinking, it's fine, it won't happen to us. It's a 1 in 4 chance. The likeliness of her having it is really slim anyway. And by this point, you know, I was well into my 2nd trimester of pregnancy. And yeah, I think naively, I just kept thinking, well, it will be fine, it will be fine. I didn't want to have a termination because, you know, I was just so advanced in the pregnancy that I just couldn't bear the thought of. And that is something I think the hospital needs to address, because the way that they put it to you is really unempathetic. And Sienna was actually born at 29 weeks anyway. So I had quite a lot of support from my midwife and the neonatal team and things like that. But yeah, I think a lot of people presume that you've taken the decision to still have a child, even though you know that you're both carriers. And that isn't always the case, because I knew that I'd been careful and I'd made sure that I'd asked these questions. And it was just unfortunate for us that the results of the blood test he'd had previously was obviously incorrect.
No, because that's I think that's a major ask and major question, because a lot of people I know always say we've asked him or we've asked her and she says she's fine. Then we just get comfortable, and I think this is one of the things that your point really advocates. Yeah, even though it's a 1 in 4 chance, you could be that 1 in 4 chance. So it's Absolutely. So important that you really, it's not just saying you know, but also how do you talk about that, coming to that point, because that's really, I'm not just doing this show just for the UK. I'm doing this show for a global basis, because there's so many people out there who want to hear these words and want to know, when you found out Sienna was sickle cell, what went through your mind, and what changes did you think you needed to do as a mother to adapt to her needs, the new lifestyle you have? You're not just having a baby now, but you're also going to have a baby like me and Sienna, myself.
Yeah.
Who are we're not just the norm, but we come with our own little bit complications. But that's part of who we are.
Yeah. So for me, I think we're quite unique in the sense that Sienna was obviously born very, very early. And at the time, she only weighed 3 pounds when she was born, so 1.4 kilos. And I was my mindset was just focused on her living. That I think it was when she was 3 days old, they told us the diagnosis and said that she had sickle cell anemia. But at 3 days old, she was still this tiny little thing fighting for her life in neonatal in an incubator. And I suppose it didn't really sink in until we left the hospital with Sienna, which was 4 weeks later. And that's when the discussions with the haematology nurse and the consultant and things like that came in, where, you know, they were talking about the medications that she needed to have for life. And then that's when the penny dropped, and we were just thinking, I was 21, I was young, first time mum, and that, leaving the hospital, not only with this tiny baby, but a baby that had a life-threatening illness, just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was so scared. I didn't want to leave the hospital, because just having that comfort of nurses and doctors being there, I felt absolutely terrified. And I became a little bit obsessed, actually, probably for the first year of Sienna's life. I'd be like, oh my gosh, her hand's swollen, her feet swollen, her eyes yellow, is she breathing properly? And I was constantly like that every minute of every day. I didn't want people to touch her, I didn't want people to go near her. If we had to go to the hospital for a checkup, nobody was allowed within 2 or 3 meters of us, because I was just so scared of her picking up an infection, or I was just very overprotective of her.
I'm definitely going to jump into Sienna now, because Sienna, you've turned out to be a beautiful young lady, still very young, very, very young. When did you first realize that you had sickle cell?
I think when I had my first crisis, when it happened, I was like, what's happening to me? Like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, I didn't really understand what it was.
Yeah.
So I think when people like doctors talk to you about it, it just goes over your head. So I think like maybe 5 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
It started to sink in, but
not really,
yeah.
Right? How would you describe a typical pain for you? Because that's I'm being asked a lot, and I never know what to say. But I wanted to know from your point, what would you say typical pain is like?
It's like pregnancy, but I don't know what pregnancy is. But a lot of people say that, but for me, it's like sharp pains and like like someone punching you, and like it's just, I don't know, it just aches. Like your body feels like it's tired and it's run down and it hurts, and it's just that it's like your blood is just attacking you.
Yes. No, I totally agree. How has it affected you in terms of school? I know I missed out a lot in school because I was sick, so I had to stay home. How have that affected you in terms of school? Have you had to make any special adjustment with schooling, or are you on that same level with everyone, or has it affected you in any special way?
I think in some subjects it does. They do a lot of different stuff really quickly. So I do catch up with like say science, but like PE, I don't do PE if it's cold or if it's raining, or if it's a lot of work like sprints and you're running and stuff like that. But I do find myself getting behind on most things, like, I don't know, challenges. We do special days in school, so I do miss out on them. But
Hayley, coming back to you, being a mother, seeing your daughter having all these challenges, what have you incorporated into her life to make it a lot easier? And also, when she was a child and you found out, because I got this question and I said, oh, this is a wonderful question when someone sent that to me. They said they just found out their daughter has sickle cell. The daughter is 2 years old. and they're from Ghana, and they're not quite sure what treatments they should do, what they should even do at all, because it's just been, they've just found this out. What would you advise as a mother who's gone through that situation, that them to do?
I think the biggest thing for me is, even now, I run a sickle cell charity, but I still research as much as possible. And there's a really good book by the NHS, and it's called A Parent's Guide, Parenting a Child with Sickle Cell, something like that. And it's literally like the holy grail, and we still give it to adults or anybody, but it's literally just a really basic, no jargon book that people can read up on, and it really explains it well. For us, the biggest thing is prevention. So I say to people, don't think about how you're going to treat it when it gets bad. Think about how you're going to prevent it from triggering. So we're always, every single day for us is trying to stop Sienna from going into a crisis, basically. So making sure that she sleeps enough, making sure she drinks enough water, making sure that we have a really healthy, balanced diet. Sienna takes a lot of supplements. She takes her penicillin and her folic acid. She always starts off with a smoothie that I put probably 25 ingredients into it. And for us, it's just, obviously sickle cell affects everybody differently, and we try to say, what works for Sienna might not work for somebody else. But as a parent, you'll get to know your child, you'll get to know their triggers. You'll get to know what helps them. So for Sienna, if she's got mild pain, I'll either massage her legs, or she'll have like an Epsom salt bath, or we play like relaxing music. And these are all things that help her, hot water bottles and things like that. And we never let a crisis get bad at home. As soon as she starts asking for regular pain relief, I just take her straight to the hospital. And we find that way that we kind of nip it in the bud quickly, and she doesn't have such a long recovery time. But yeah, I always say to parents, don't question yourself, just go straight to the hospital if you're not sure.
Okay. And when she's missed out on school, do you have any special arrangements with school to make sure she goes back, to make sure she catches up on classes, especially she's getting older? And also, how does she catch up in school? Then hospital transition. Are you worried about that transition phase when she gets to that age of being transitioned from children to adults? So first, the school one. How are you sorting out the school?
So with school, luckily most of Sienna's homework is on Google Classroom.
Okay.
So we have an arrangement with school that if she's not well, the teachers will upload the work that she's missed onto Google Classroom. Now, we had a little bit of an issue with the school because the teachers expected her to complete it all. But I said, if Sienna's unwell for 3 weeks, the last thing I expect her to do is troll through 50 assignments to get up to scratch with the rest of her peers. I've said to school that it's Sienna's choice whether she chooses to catch up or not. She's only in year 7 at the moment. I think if it was year 11, I'd probably push a little bit more for her to catch up. But I just feel like the worst thing for her is to be in recovery from a crisis and then be really stressed and anxious about having to catch up on all this work that she's missed out on. So we're quite relaxed, and the school are quite understanding in that sense.
And the transition phase for the hospital, what are your thoughts about that, and how are you going to get yourself out?
Terrified.
Yeah.
Obviously we work with quite a lot of families, and this comes up with anyone from the age of 13 to 16, either the teenager or the parent start to get very anxious. And for me personally, I had to have my tonsils removed when I was 16, and so this has nothing to do with sickle cell, but I had to go on an adult ward, and I was so scared because my mum just left. My mum wasn't allowed to stay with me. and I was so terrified. And I think that it's something that we need to just start discussing now, teaching your child, you know, the right questions to ask, because you're not going to be able to be with them. And even, you know, when Sienna's in hospital, I sleep next to her. I often hold her hand. She's not feeling great, I'll, you know, help her unplug her drip and take her to the toilet and things like that. And the fact that I won't be able to do that when she's on an adult ward really makes me nervous.
Yeah, I know. That's a scary thought. Sienna, if for you, having lived with this, what are your hopes for people out there who are similar age to you but going through it and not in, you know, you're very fortunate because your mum knows quite a bit and is willing to learn. But there's so many people out there, their mums are so scared. I spoke to another person and she was absolutely terrified because her parents has made it even worse for her. But you're lucky, girl. Your mum just knows so much. But what are your hopes for people like that out there who just need that words of encouragement from people like ourselves?
I think I hope that they find the courage to ask their parents or their friends or someone they know with sickle cell, and they just ask them, if you have the courage to do something, then
Just for support, isn't it?
yeah, it's just, if someone's around you and they love you and they care for you, they're going to help you. And I think maybe just like look into, like, read stuff, like search, I don't know, sickle cell facts for kids, or you can read books, or what are those books called?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I know. It's
But yeah,
keep them
I
busy.
just hope they,
I think at this age, now we say to Sienna that she has to be a bit more responsible for what she does. And I think for children, like younger children, it's a lot more difficult because they can't communicate how exactly they're feeling. They just know that they're hurting, and they don't understand, you know, if they run around the playground for 4 hours, that will then result in. But I think at this age, Sienna's definitely becoming more aware of being responsible. So she knows that if she doesn't drink enough water, then she's going to feel the consequences of it.
Yeah.
So for teenagers, yeah, I think your friends at this age are a massive support network, because you feel like really comfortable. She's got 2 really close friends that are always, as soon as Sienna doesn't turn up to school, they'll message and say, are you in hospital? How are you? What are you doing? Are you okay? Can we do anything? Do you need us to get anything from school or anything like that? So I think, yeah, just having a really close friendship is really important at this age.
And Hayley, for yourself, you have this organization which is really helping people. Could you just tell us a little bit more about it? And for anyone out there that needs to reach out to you, how would they get in touch with you to understand what you're doing, the good work you're, you know, really doing to help people with sickle cell?
So as an organisation, we're based in the Thames Valley. So most of the physical activities we provide are in the Thames Valley. And before lockdown, I keep saying this at the moment, before lockdown, we used to take up to 50 people out for the day. So whether it was bowling, theme parks, lots of different activities. And I think it's important for people to remember that sickle cell in a family unit doesn't just affect that person, it affects everybody. So siblings, you know, mum, dad. And so we take everybody out and just have fun, and just forget about the hospital appointments and the medication and everything. And it's also a nice opportunity to meet other people that are going through the same thing as you. Quite often the younger children particularly absolutely are in awe of Sienna, because although they might have siblings, their siblings don't have sickle cell, and they can't relate to how the pain feels or what it feels like to be different. And they'll say, oh, Sienna, have you got sickle cell as well? And they just, it's so beautiful to just watch them finally feel like somebody can relate to them. And again, with the parents as well, it's just nice for them to say, oh, we do this for our child. Does that help your child? Have you got any like advice that we can use? Or so that's our support side of the organisation. And then the other side of it is awareness and fundraising. So we try and just share as many facts as we can. We have a charity ball once a year where we fundraise and also, you know, just spread the word. Sickle cell is one of the most common genetic conditions in the world. I would like to think that somebody would know just a small bit about it, but quite often we find that people will say, oh, what's that? We don't know what that is. And Sienna looks fine. So it's just, yeah, we just want to make a difference. Sickle cell should be known, and that is our main goal, just for people to be empathetic and understanding to those with it.
No, I love the work you're doing, because I think that shines so much light, especially for young people like Sienna. When you have an invisible illness, when you look fine, it's always difficult for people around you to take you seriously. They just assume you're making it up. But having this platform with shine a light on it and get people understanding. I really have enjoyed talking to you, but obviously I always like to leave a final message of hope to people who are listening to this conversation today. Sienna, we'll start with you. Your message of hope, or your message to teachers, for example. Let's give let you give a message to a teacher out there, because some of the struggles we always forget that our struggle starts from our foundation. When a teacher doesn't understand you, that really could make your life really challenging for the rest of your life, because your foundation always starts in school. What message would you want to send out to teachers who are watching this, and for them to better understand how to manage someone with sickle cell and an invisible illness?
I think you just have to listen to them. Listen to the people that you're teaching and get to know them, especially like talk to them if you see them having any worries or struggling, if they're not catching up with work, you can call their parents, or talk to them in school, or say, okay, we're gonna sort this out so you can catch up, and mostly just, I think, understanding
Perfect.
your students or whoever it is.
Hayley, I want your message to other parents who've just found out that they're having a child with sickle cell and not quite sure what to do, what the next step should be. What would be your message to them?
It's not going to make them different in the sense of they can live a normal life. You know, I hear some parents just thinking that sickle cell is just going to be horrific for their child, and although the times when they are in a crisis are horrific and some of the complications, Sienna we never let sickle cell stop her from doing anything. You know, we travel a lot, we go to theme parks, we do everything that a normal child can do. It's just that I shouldn't say normal child, a child that doesn't have a health condition. And you know, you can have fun, you can do everything that other families do. It's just about just taking those precautions, learning about each other. And yeah, look at Sienna, she's excelled in school. She's in the gifted art club at school. I'm so proud of her that despite everything she has to go through, she's just a wonderful person, and I'm just extremely proud. And I think just don't see it as, you know, like a long-term sentence of being in hospital and things like that, because it's definitely not, you know. So just stay positive, and enjoy life as a family.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, Hayley and Sienna, thank you so much for joining me on this platform and spreading awareness on sickle cell. I think more of you are needed out there because you're very right. Still, sickle cell is a global concern. It's just not just few of us that have sickle cell. There's so many people out there. Number one, genetic blood disorder, and still to this day, you talk about sickle cell, people just don't understand. But I'm really honored and grateful for having you join me and share your story. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you.